There may be others that join us, by the way, along the way. Hey, Elka, Satora, let's start with you. I want to know who you are. Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you working with at CIE? Tell us a little bit about your business and yourself.
I live in Port Townsend. I work with Rick. I just had a blank. I just drew a blank with Rick. I'm an energy healer and I work mostly online. Well, I've decided to only work online because it's more effective and it works better with me and my neurodiversities. So that's what I do.
Are you in business already or still working to start it, or at a very early stage? Where are you in the process?
Well, I've been starting it for over 2 years, and right now I feel like I have to start over because I haven't been actively doing anything for half a year with clients, or not much.
Oh, because of COVID?
No, some personal, some
other stuff.
Yeah, it's been really interesting trying to start a business. It's quite a process, and there's a lot of things to work through besides all the tech and legal stuff and business stuff.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think the top 3 things are that you need to start a business?
Well, you need an offering. If it's, in my case, an online business, you need a computer and internet.
I like the offering. In other words, you have to be able to sell something.
Yeah.
Something to sell. A product or a service. And in your case, you need an internet. What else?
Almost everybody needs that nowadays. Yeah. In my case, that's very basic. Computer and internet.
Cool. Well,
yeah, only ask for 3 things. So
okay, one more person is joining us. Persistence is paying off. Hi, Leslie.
Hello, how are you? Sorry,
I'm glad. Oh, that's okay. I apologize for the technical snafu. Thank you for joining us. We're just going around the room and getting to know who's with us.
No problem.
I wondered if you could introduce yourself to us and let us know, are you a CIE client? And if so, who are you working with and where are you working and where are you with your business? What's going on?
Well, okay, I'll introduce myself. I didn't hear everything you said. I'm having some internet difficulties, I think. So if I break up, that's why. I actually found out about the Center for Inclusive Entrepreneurship through a friend of mine that used to be an advisor for the area. That was Marissa. I don't know if she's still working with CIE or not. Marisa Herrera. But she told me about it, and at one point I wanted to volunteer or support the organization in some way, but that wasn't able to happen. So really, I've just kind of stayed connected, joined the coffee, I think, program you have. I'm sorry if I'm not saying the name correctly, but I'm not a client, but just really love the organization and the things that the organization is doing in the community. But I also have my own business ideas, have not even begun to start them. And so that's also a reason I like to stay in touch, because, you know, I am potentially an entrepreneur in the making, or at least a small business owner in the making. And so I definitely welcome any tips or suggestions there, just getting started. So
Well, Leslie, you're in the right place for a lot of reasons, but let me ask you something. What part of the state do you live in?
So I used to live in Mount Vernon, so I was in Skagit before, but now I'm in Bellevue.
Okay, so Mount Vernon is probably where you ran into Marisa.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
she used to be our business advisor in the Skagit.
I also did take the Simple Start course. I forgot to mention that, so that's a
Oh,
side
so
note.
you are a client. What are you talking about?
I took that course, but I didn't have a business yet. That was really that was the beginning,
Do
the
you remember?
course to just even test out
Yeah,
an idea, so.
did you do the Wednesday night online one with like Rick or Micah or one of those guys?
No, I did not.
Where did you take it? Who did you take it with? Maybe it was
Well,
me.
I suppose it was online. There were only 4 sessions total. I think I missed the 4th one. I am not entirely certain who the individual was at this time because it was probably a couple years ago now. So I apologize.
Well, the reason I said there's a lot of reasons that you need to be here is one is that it sounds like you might be a mentor. And two is this is a great place to
Maybe.
learn. This is a great place to learn how to start a business. So I think you're in a good, you're in a good place.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. One thing that we're asking everybody to share is what do you think the top 3 things are that you need to start a business?
No, are you speaking to me, Mike? Because you broke
I
up.
am. I am. Leslie, what do you think the top 3 things are that you need to start a business? The 3 most important things.
Well, I think when I answered this question when I registered, I said a plan. So I think that's maybe the first one. And then maybe, maybe just perseverance and networking. Those would be my
A
3 things.
plan, perseverance, and networking. I like 2 out of 3 of those, but I won't tell you which ones.
Okay.
So, hey, well, welcome. I want to introduce you to Barney. My name is Mike Skinner. I'm the executive director and the founder of CIE, and I've been working on this project for going on 10 years now. And I'm here with Barney Cohen and his cohort, Leah Masano. And Barney is like my mentor. He's a mentor's mentor. That's how I would describe Barney. He's sort of a mentor's mentor. He's a mentor emeritus for me and and becoming that more so for the rest of us too at CIE. And we're really honored to have him. And I'll let him tell you a little bit about his background. Before he gets started, though, I wanted Barney to kind of kick it off by summarizing what we talked about last month, which are the 5 things that you need to start a business. And then we'll let Barney take us on a tour of the 5 things that you definitely do not need to start a business. So Barney, welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Leah, for joining us. And you're on.
Well, thanks. Well, rather than me take your time up with giving you more of my story, I have a pretty good sized bio of me on my website. So if you're interested in my story, you could go to barneysbusinessbasics.com, and I can say it slower if you want, or maybe Mike can send it to everybody. But I'm still currently active, and I call myself a business consultant. Some people call me a business coach, and I do some of each. I work with people that want to grow their businesses. I generally don't work with people who haven't started a business yet, because I do charge for my time, and most people who are just starting don't think they can afford somebody like me. I do have free office hours though, so if any of you wanted to just spend some time chatting with me, I'd be glad to do that. You can go to my website and sign up for a free office hour if you'd like to have a private one-on-one conversation. So I blog every week, and I have a newsletter that is free, and I don't solicit from the newsletter. So, it's just information. And I have just a lot of experience about how to run a business. And I've worked with not hundreds, but thousands of clients, helping them grow their business. And I'm pretty good at it. And I'm glad to share what I know. And I like sharing what I know. So last week we talked about the 5 things that I say you need to start a business. And it really boils down to you have to make a sale. So the 5 things, as I laid them out, were you needed to have a product, you have to have something to sell. That was number 1. And number 2 is you have to have somebody who would buy that. So you have to have a customer. And then the third thing that I say you need to have to start a business, I call it a reality check or a gut check, or just ask yourself, is this reasonable? Is this idea of starting a business a reasonable thing to do? And then the 4th thing I say you need to start a business is the decision to do it. I've worked with so many people who want to do something, but they don't 100% decide to do it. And if you don't 100% decide to do it, it probably will not happen. So my 4th thing was the decision to start. In other words, you walk up to a line where, like, you draw a line in the sand and you say, if I cross this line, that means I've started this business. And I consider that a separate step, because most people really struggle with that. And then the 5th thing you need to start a business is some sales. You don't have a business unless you have sales. That's all a business does, is sell things. That's what a business is. It's an organization that sells things. So if you have sales, you have a business, or you may have a business. If you don't have sales, you definitely don't have a business. So that was my 5 things that you need for starting a business. I've worked with a lot of people who talk about starting a business, and I hear them say, I've got to do this, 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 and this. And there are a lot of things that aren't in my top 5 things you need to start a business. And in general, I think there are things you don't need to start a business. And I'm gonna put them into 5 categories. Some of them are things that you might need to start a business in certain situations. And it's the kind of business is sort of obvious. If you're going to have a business that has a physical storefront, well, then obviously you would need to have a lease. You'd have to have a place. If you were going to have a business that required a license, you would have to have a license. So there are exceptions to this presentation of mine of what you have to have or what you don't have to have. But here's my list of 5 things that in general you do not need to start a business. And I'll go through them quickly.
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please. And then what I like to do is talk with people. So I'm hopeful that I can make this presentation fairly short and then open it up to you to respond to what I say and ask me questions if you'd like. But the 5 things that you don't need to start a business, and they're in no particular order, but I'll just lay them out for you. The first is a lawyer. You don't need a lawyer to start a business. Most businesses don't have any reason at all to hire a lawyer to start a business. But if you're going to have a partner and you're going to have an investor and you're talking about a business that has a lot of money involved, yes, you might want to hire a lawyer. And many businesses find that they need a lawyer for something or other at some point in time. So I'm not saying you should never hire a lawyer. I'm saying you don't really need a lawyer to start a business. You do not need a lawyer to set up the legal status of the business. If your business is going to be a LLC or a subchapter S, you can do that by yourself. You do not need a lawyer to do that. Lawyer just adds money. It just costs money. So if you need legal advice, yes, you need to go see a lawyer, but the state of Washington and most states make starting a business very easy. And most states want people to start businesses. So it's not hard, and you can work your way through it pretty easily without a lawyer. I've found that the state is very helpful. Every time I've called the state and asked them questions about business ownership and starting businesses, they've been very helpful. So before you went and hired a lawyer, I would suggest you just call up the people in the state government and ask them your questions, and they will probably answer you. So that's one thing. I don't think you need to start a business as a lawyer.
Let me just interject that even though I am a lawyer, my feelings are not hurt. And I often tell people the same thing. They want to make it complicated, and they think that to do it right, they got to have legal advice. But almost all the time, you can get around that and do things in a real simple way. But I think you really put your finger on something that's really important. If you do have a partner, partnership agreements are tough. I mean, you basically need a prenup. You need to think through all the things that are going to go wrong and kind of try to anticipate those in a written agreement so that you, when those things happen, you've got a plan. And that's one area where you might want to have a lawyer. And if you're a CIE client, lawyers are expensive and hard to access. And one thing that I've been really good at, because I was a lawyer in Seattle for many years and I have a lot of friends, I call up people and ask them to do this work for them pro bono. So if you need help reviewing a lease agreement or setting up a partnership agreement with a partner for a 2-member LLC, or simple things like that, maybe a service contract, CIE can usually get you in touch with somebody who's a good business lawyer and will do that work for you for free with their malpractice coverage, because they can't cut corners. They got to treat you as well as any other client. And so if that is something you need, let us know and we'll try to help you with that. But don't let lawyers stand in the way. That's, I think, good advice, Barney.
Well, I'll leave you out of my statement here, Mike, but in general, lawyers are not good at business. If you ask me to name a group, a business category where the businesses are almost always poorly run, I would probably put lawyers right at the head of the list. In other words, in all the legal firms that I've dealt with, I see companies that are very poorly run. So you definitely would not go to a lawyer for business advice, in my opinion. You'd go to a lawyer for legal advice. But starting a business is not a complicated legal process, and you do not need a lawyer to start a business. You also don't need a lawyer to sign a partnership agreement. You can just sign an agreement with a partner, and then you're done. You've got a partnership agreement. You can do that without a lawyer if you want. The lawyers add a lot of money, and they don't add a lot of value to this, I don't think. Anyway, everything I'm saying is a generalization, because we can easily come up with situations where you do need a lawyer. I could also give you lots of examples where I wish you would go see a lawyer. But in general, you don't need a lawyer. Okay, second one, in general, you don't need a business plan. The reason why you don't need a business plan is because plans are fiction. And the likelihood that something you lay out as a plan to do on day one, the likelihood that that would happen that way is close to zero. And the reason why some people think they need a business plan is because they think they need to borrow some money, and the person who's loaning money, like a bank or an SBA, asks for your business plan. The bankers and the SBA know the plan is fiction. And, behind your back, when you don't see them talking to you, they're laughing about how silly the plans are and how stupid the plans are. I'm a big fan of business planning. I am not a big fan of what I call a business plan. And if that's clear to you guys, then I'll stop there and just go on to the next thing. If that's not clear, I'd be glad to explore that. Do you all, when I say I like business planning, but I don't like a business plan, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love it if you could say a little more about the business planning that's important.
A business planning would be more specific. So a business plan is, after 5 years, I'm going to have so many employees and I'm going to have so many sales and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And everybody knows that, that's just a wild guess and you don't really have any idea what's going to happen in 5 years. Business planning is more geared toward a single event. Like, for instance, if you said, I want to plan to make my first 10 sales. I'm a big fan of that. I would love to see you make a plan to make 10 sales. That's different than saying, here's where I think my business is going to be in 5 years. So a business plan is about the whole business. A plan to make 10 sales is very specific, and it's something I think you can get your head around and you can do. So if you were going to start, you're doing energy work and you're going to start, I would ask you, well, who are going to be your first 10 customers? And if you said to me, well, so-and-so, 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 and so-and-so, I would say, well, write it down and let's call them. That's like a plan. If you said, I don't know who my first 10 customers are going to be, then I would say to you, well, how would you find your first 10 customers? And you'd say, well, I would go, I don't know what you do. I would go to a health fair and make a presentation at a health fair. That's the kind of thing you'd put into a plan. You'd say, okay, ways that I can find clients are to go to health fair, and you put that down. And let's say you come up with 5 things to do to help you find clients. Well, then you would say, how many of these 5 things am I going to do? Which one am I going to do first? Which one am I going to do second? What tools do I need to do those things? That's planning. That's what I call business planning. But you're doing it around something specific with a specific result in mind. So planning is something you do to accomplish a goal. And what people, particularly in the finance world, call a business plan is something a little different. That's more than a goal. It's sort of a vision of where they think you might be in 5 years and where you think you might be in 5 years. And we all know that it likely will not happen that way. How did I do? Did that explain it? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So that's a business plan, but it's amazing how much energy people put into this kind of thing. A third thing that I think new businesses don't need is branding. Branding is something that takes place over a very long period of time, and branding is something that's done by big companies. So Apple's concerned about their brand, or Target, or Costco, or these are companies that would be very concerned about their brand. Branding is not something that one associates with a new startup company. The concept of branding in a startup company, what you really mean is, what's your reputation? Because that's all you have on day one is your reputation for what kind of work you do. And if you haven't had any sales, you have no reputation. And if you've got one sale, you've got a reputation with one person. And if you've got 5 sales, you've got a reputation with 5 people. And that's not a brand. That's just what people think of you and I think that's very important. I want you to have a good reputation, but it's not branding. And the reason why I list that here is because I've seen so many people put so much energy into all the stuff that you associate with branding, your logo and marketing materials. Well, none of that makes very much difference on day one, because the likelihood is that your first customers are going to be people you know, or people who are fairly close to you. And they're not going to hire you because you have a cute logo. They're going to hire you because you've talked to them and they like you, or they'll try you, or there's somebody you know. And the second group of customers that are most likely to come to you would be those that are referred by the first group of customers. And again, you don't need a logo for that. That's not the way you're going to get business on day one. There are a few things that I think you should have that we call marketing materials, like a business card and a website. You might do them on day one, or you might do them later. These are things you'll do at some point for sure. But you don't need a website and you don't need a business card on day one. What you need on day one is to make sales. And the likelihood for the vast majority of you, for anybody really going into business, the likelihood is that your early sales are people you've met in person that know you. And the likelihood is that your second group of customers are going to be one step removed, people who know the people who know you. And that's how businesses get started. So branding doesn't help that process. It's just extra time and extra money and extra expense. So the third thing you don't need to start a business, the fourth thing you don't need to start a business that a lot of people think you do, are licenses and all the tax stuff you've got to do. Do you need a business license? Probably. Not for sure, but the rules around business licensing are, if you're doing business in a name different than your own, you will probably have to get a business license. But you don't need to do that before you make your first sale. You can sell, if you're doing energy work, you can do energy work without having a business license. You just go do energy work and charge somebody for it. The moment that you need to get a business license is when you decide to make a real business out of it. At that point in time, it's time to go get your business license. And I'm not saying that you don't need a business license. I'm saying you don't really need it to get your business started. What you need to get your business started is some sales. And you can make sales without having a business license. You certainly don't need to set up tax accounts with governments before you start making sales. I'll just pick one as an example. Sales tax. Sales tax isn't charged in advance, it's charged after you make the sale. And then once you've made the sale, you don't have to give the sales tax portion to the state until the reporting time. So when people start a business, generally the state says, well, let's set you up on a reporting schedule of once a quarter. So if you started a business today, in July, you probably wouldn't have to pay the state until September 30th for any sales tax. So that's when you go get the sales tax form. That's when you fill out the sales tax form. You don't need it to start the business. You need to do it after the business has been started. So I'm not saying that you should avoid paying sales tax. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying you don't need to do it before you make your sales. It's something you do after you make your sales. Okay, and then the last thing is that you don't need to start a business. Is you don't really need an accountant. It's the same. This is the same kind of thing as taxes. You probably at some point in your business career, if your business gets going, you'll probably hire an outside accountant. You'll probably work with accounting people. You probably will hire a bookkeeper. It'll probably be a big part of what you do. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have an accountant and you shouldn't do bookkeeping, but you don't need it to start. And the reason I say all this stuff is because if you put a lot of energy into all these things before you start your business, it's just going to slow down when you get your business started. So if you're going to start a business, let's put as few things in the way as possible. Let's only do the things that you really have to do to get the business off the ground. And let's do everything else after the business gets started. So that's my big point. Now, every one of those 5 things I said you don't need, we can come up with examples where a certain business might need them or could need them. There's clearly businesses that would need permits and licenses before they start. Like for instance, a bar. You can't open a bar without a liquor license. But that's not the majority of businesses. The majority of businesses don't need licenses and permits to start. So that's my presentation. And what I like is to make these kind of, I call them chats or whatever. I like to make them interactive. I'd rather talk with you rather than just me talking all the time. I can hear myself talk anytime. I see that Ryan is, how important is business credit? From Ryan to everyone. So Ryan, I can't see you, but I saw your message. Is that question for me, Mike? Should I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
It depends what you would want credit for. A lot of businesses don't need credit. Let's just try and come up with some examples. If you have a personal services business, like doing energy work, what do you need credit for? I mean, business credit is basically the ability to go to the bank and borrow money. So the question is, what do you want to borrow the money for? So do you need business credit? Yes, you need to get business credit if you want to borrow money. I would prefer that businesses not borrow money. I think in an ideal world, a business would never borrow any money. And if a business comes to the conclusion that it should borrow money, then it should have a good reason for doing that. The way you get to be creditworthy as a business is the same way that a person becomes creditworthy. You pay your bills on time and you show the bank that you're a responsible person. So there's a business process for that, just like there's a personal process for that. I'm a big fan of paying bills on time, and if you incur a bill, you should pay it and pay it on time. And that's the way to getting good credit day in and day out. But all the clients I work with right now, I have about 20 clients that I work with on a regular basis, week in, week out, or month in, month out. And many of them have no debt at all. I would say half of them have no debt and don't need credit. And the other half that do borrow money, they all handle it pretty well. And they all have a program for when they need money and why they need money. Anyway, Ryan, that's a very general question. So for me to answer anything more specifically, I would need to know what you're talking about.
Thanks, Ryan. Oh, Ryan's driving. Of course he is. It's good to see you again, Ryan. It's been a long time. When I first started doing this work, advising people on how to start businesses, a lot of what you say just, was walking in my door every day. Somebody would walk in and they'd have their business license, their LLC, their brand, their logo. And I'd ask them what they're doing. And they said, well, I haven't figured that out yet.
Right.
And they probably got $300 into legal fees and LLCs and licensing and everything, but they still don't really know what they want to do.
Probably more like 3,000 or 10,000. I mean, that's
maybe. and I'm sort of like, well, you kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit. Let's talk about what you want to do. The other thing I wanted to mention is one of the reasons that we designed our program the way it is because what I experienced in a lot of cases were that people were afraid to get out there and, as Barney said, step across that threshold and be, stop talking about the business and actually start the business, actually do it, And oftentimes all of these things that they thought they had to do were kind of excuses for actually doing it. And what we've learned at CIE is the quicker you get out of the meeting, out of the room and into your market and start trying things and seeing what results in a sale, the quicker you're going to figure out what the business is and then once you know what the business is, you can start thinking about all the things you got to do to make the business happen. And so what we try to do is eliminate all the barriers that keep people from that and get them out into making sales. And one of the greatest pleasures I always had, especially working with consultants or business life coaches or like Satora, an energy business, is getting my client to a point where they realized all they need is a cell phone and a laptop and a coffee shop, and they can start work. And when they finally reach that place, and I said, so what are you waiting for? Get out there and try to make some sales today. Come back tomorrow and tell me how it went. It's like, well, I wasn't really that serious about starting a business anyway. And so I like to get people to that place where, they're standing before the opportunity and they have only themselves to blame for not moving forward, and get them to a place where they, finally they say, yeah, you're right. I don't need anything. I don't need a company car or a downtown office or a logo or, anything fancy. I just need to get out there and see if what I'm trying to do to help people is going to produce a sale. And the quicker you can get out there and just try to make sales, the more you're going to, the better you're going to be at starting to actually do something and turning that into something that could become a business.
Right. I mean, what makes a business is that you're making sales. And so if you're doing anything else, you're just swimming upstream. I mean, you should put all your energy into making the sale. And then once you've made it, you've got to fill the order. I mean, once you've taken an order from somebody, you have to fill it. Whether it's a product or a service, you have to do what if you sold your time, you've got to give people the time. If you sold a service, you've got to give the service. If you sold a product, you've got to give the product. So that's all a business is, making a sale and then delivering on that sale.
One of your newsletters, I'll do a plug for your newsletters. One of your newsletters that I really totally enjoyed and sent it out to all my team to read was the one where you said, when you start talking about starting a business, it sounds so complicated. And that stops people in their tracks right there, just thinking, oh, starting a business, I got to do all these things. And you said, instead of thinking about starting a business, just think about making your first sale and go out and make a sale. And then when you've done that, come back and we'll talk about how it went, and we'll now plan to go out and make 2 sales and make 3 sales. And if you just focus on making a sale, selling your product, selling your goods or your services,
really,
forget about starting a business.
What it means to go into business, it just makes they think it's just a lot more complicated than it is.
Right.
It's not complicated. It's in terms of, if it's simple versus complicated, going into business is very simple. That doesn't mean it's easy. Some people find selling something easy. Other people find selling things hard. You won't succeed in business unless you learn how to sell. You got to sell what it is you're selling. Your product, it's got to be sold. Someone's going to buy it, and that's all a business is. It's an organization that makes sales. That's what a business is.
In exchange for revenue.
That's correct. Well, that's what a sale is. And
Right.
Exchange a product for revenue. Right. So, yeah, that's all there is to it, really. So I say it's not complicated, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It could be difficult. How difficult it is how easy or hard it is for you to get going. And how easy or hard it is for you to ask for help. There's a book, Mike, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called The $100 Startup by Chris Guillebeau. And a lot of the ideas that I present are very similar to his ideas. And that's a easy book to read. And he makes a really good point. If your business startup costs more than $100, you're probably wasting your money. It should not cost very much money to start a business.
Just in case you missed it, Ryan did put another question in the chat, and I'll just read it for him. If there's a business that might require an engineer for the idea, how would you start that? Would that be a prenup if involving them?
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever you want, Ryan. I don't know what the business is. I don't know why it would need an engineer, but if what you're saying is, I mean, it sounds like you're talking about some kind of app or something. Yeah, if you're talking about an internet startup where what you're selling is some kind of application on the internet, this is a place where you have to do some work before you can make your first sale. And so this is an example of something that might be a little bit of an exception to what I'm talking about. You can't really start an internet business without spending any money. You're going to have to spend some money on you're going to have to at least develop the app on the internet to the point where someone would buy it. The sort of the common path for most internet startups is they do beta testing and they give away their app for free, and they lose a fair amount of money before they start making money. And that's a little different than most of the businesses I'm talking about. And, I'm talking about things like starting a coffee shop or a coffee pop-up shop, or, starting a personal services business like yoga instructor or personal trainer, or we can go on and on with business ideas. There's a guy driving his truck around my neighborhood, and he does, he mows for people, and he prunes yards, and that's a business, and he makes a living doing it. So you've probably seen his truck, Ken's Yard Service, and so you can get a business going for very little, but businesses that sell some kind of function on the internet, that generally requires some work up front, and that would be something that does cost some money. If your question is, does the engineer that you want to work with need a prenup? That's just a question of style. If you're going to work with somebody else to get a business started, you and that person should have an agreement about how you're going to interact with each other. Are you going to be partners? Are you going to be employer-employee? Are you going to be friends? What are you doing with each other? And that's sort of got to get worked out. If this person is going to be a contractor or an employee, the laws that govern the way you treat people like this are pretty clear. And you probably don't need to go and write in a lot of new laws. I mean, you just follow, good practice. And, if you're going to work with somebody as a contractor, you would just have an agreement that you ask them to give you a proposal, and they would say, I'm going to do A, B, and C for you, and I'm going to charge you this much money. When they do A, B, and C for you, you pay them their money. So that's a contractor. And if it's an employee, employment law is very clear. You don't need a prenup to hire someone as an employee.
Yeah, Ryan, if you have a concept, I know you're an idea guy and not a programmer. So I'm guessing you've got a concept and you want to find somebody that will help you turn that into an app. There's a lot of ways you could do that. You could partner with them, in which case you might want a partnership agreement or some kind of a prenup, but that's probably the most complicated way to do it. The other way to do it is to pay him or her to develop the programming under contract, and the contract would say anything you produce under this contract is mine. I'm paying you to give me your intellectual property. When the contract is over, you've got the product, and this person goes away. Another way is, like Barney was saying, is you set up the business, you hire the person. That requires you to have money to set up the business and have enough money to be able to pay somebody compensation. But if they're doing work for you, like designing and engineering an app or a software product, then it is, the law is that you own it. It's not a work for hire. It's it's a work for hire, and you are the owner of the work because they're doing that work for you as your employee.
Yeah.
And
Contract
so,
law is the most common of all laws. I mean, and it's all the law is very clear. If you pay for something, it's yours. So if you hire someone as an employee, their work belongs to you. If you hire someone as a contractor, what they produce is yours. You've paid for it. You're done. And they're done too. It's over. You don't need a prenup for either a contractor or an employee. I don't see Ryan, and I don't have any context for your questions, Ryan, so I don't know whether I'm answering your question or not.
And Ryan, you feel free to call me or Rick or Micah or any of the other folks out on the peninsula with these questions too. For sure, they're there for you. So let's see, we had one person that started by saying, I think I need a business plan. I think that was Leslie. So I hope you're crossing that off your list now.
Yeah.
In my experience, I've helped a lot of people write business plans, and like Barney's saying, in my experience, they're exactly what does not happen in real life. And when you're starting a business, there's really no way to know what it's going to be. You're sort of going into the unknowable future. Oh, somebody's joining us at the last part of the meeting. Asha, I'm glad you were able to join us. When somebody starts thinking about starting a business, it's kind of like having kids or getting married. It's one of those things that no matter how much you read and prepare, you never really know how it's going to be until you're doing it. And you sort of have to jump out there and do it and start seeing where it's taking you, rather than trying to pretend like you're going to be able to write it down and then just go out and execute. And that's what's so different about starting a business versus running a business. Running a business that's already been developed and already has discovered how it works is just executing on the business model. But when you're starting a business, you've got to discover what that business is. You got to discover that business model. And the only way to do that is to go out there and try stuff a lot, and hopefully in a strategic and systematic way. So you're starting to see patterns and really focusing relentlessly on the customer and what they want you to do, and let them sort of guide you into what the business becomes. And then at that point, you can start thinking about, well, what is this business? You could describe it in a business plan. And maybe you need credit at that point because you want to expand and hire a bunch of people and get a studio for your energy consulting work. And then, you're into a whole different place in the business. But at the beginning, the plan just gets in the way. It's almost like a lot of people will write a plan and then feel like they have to be beholden to the plan they wrote, which prevents them from seeing opportunity when it's staring right in the face. Well, I didn't put that on my plan. Well, who cares? Somebody's about to hand you money for a product. Hand them the product, get the money, and forget about the plan. I helped a guy start a driving school. It was the first guy I helped doing this work. He was a Somali refugee, hardly spoke any English. He had 5 business ideas. We unpacked all of them. And the one that seemed like the most scalable and the most possible was starting a driving school for Somali and East African immigrant kids. And he wanted to do it at high schools. So we got them all set up, got them curriculum, found them an office, got them a loan to finance the first part of the, and he sat in that office, the rent was going up and the phone was not ringing. And he was like, this isn't going to work. It's not going to work. And then one day the phone rang. The name of his business, he's still in business and has done very well. It's called First Pass Driving School in Seattle. And he sat there and he said, I went to all the schools. I put my flyers up everywhere. I've been doing presentations. I've been reaching out to the principal. Nobody was calling him. And then the phone rang and he picked it up and it was some guy from India who said, I got 60 programmers that are moving to Bellevue to work at Microsoft and they all need driver's license. And he said, I'll take it. And, he started his business looking for kids because that's who he thought he would be teaching, his high school kids. But the business took off when he took that phone call. And suddenly he's the go-to guy for all these folks that are sending programmers from India and China and all over the world to work at Microsoft. And they go to him and he gives them, and now he's totally in all the high schools. And his plan eventually took off and it's worked really well. He's got 3 locations now and a big group of people that work with him. But he was looking over here when the opportunity was over here because his plan said, this is where I'm going. And it prevented him from seeing something that was knocking on the door. And good for him that he answered the phone. And he said, by the way, why'd you call me? And they said, well, you're the first one that answered the phone. They were just going down the yellow pages looking for driving schools.
Nice story.
You were the one that returned the phone call. So here's 60 people. They all need to get driver's license. They'll be at your place, in a week. I think that's a great story. It's why plans don't work, especially in the beginning, because you don't know where the opportunity is really going to present itself, and it can prevent you from seeing things that are staring you right in the face, especially at that early stage in your business. Well, I didn't write that on my plan. I wasn't going to do this kind of work. Well, it's paying the bills. So take it. Asha, you joined us late. Welcome to the talk. I'm going to give you a really quick recap. We're talking with Barney, who I introduced as the mentor's mentor. And Barney's talking about the things that a lot of people think they need, but they don't need to start a business. Are you with us? Are you hearing me okay? I can't tell. Give me a thumbs up if you're, and we'll catch up real quick.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody. I really appreciate your bio, Mike, and I love what CIE offers. And I'm so appreciative. I believe it was Fauzia who called to remind me that this was going on. I have my kids in the car. We're on to soccer practice. My son is
right on.
I'm a soccer mom, and I have my own Airbnb business, which is shifting to a sustainable mindset sort of way of teaching people how to live sustainably out in the peninsula. And also in the world, just we're doing like a kind of incubation of, and like you say, it shifted from just Airbnb to people are visiting and they're like, oh, well, I live in the city, but I don't know what composting is. And so we have a little mini farm. So it's been fun.
You might have heard, Asha, about our Green Equity Accelerator that we just completed the first cohort of for social enterprises.
Yes, I attended the event where it showcased everybody. It was excellent.
Oh, awesome. Well, then I met you. I was there.
Okay. Yeah. Hi there.
So some of the things you don't need when you're starting a business is a business plan, a business license, an accountant, a lawyer. These are all things that kind of stand in the way from just getting out there and trying to make a sale. That's what we're talking about tonight with Barney. Does anybody else want to share anything? Any aha moments?
I want to thank you, Barney, because you brought it back to the basics of what is so simple. Because in those 2.5 years that I've been trying this, I went online, and there is a whole world of business coaches that makes things really complicated. And I think it really tripped me up, even though I didn't pay anybody for anything, but there's all this free stuff, and I am.
It's a black hole.
It's
It'll
yeah,
swallow you up.
yeah. It and it cost me so much time and energy and confusion. And yeah, I really appreciate that you bring it back to the basics. Just go out and make a sale.
That's sort of my thing, is to make it, I can't make it easy, but I can make it simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be complicated. In fact, business is pretty simple. It's really just, you're just trading your services for, for their money. I mean, it's really just a very simple trade. And people do it all the time without really thinking that this is a business. They do it in their private life. But anyway, what a business does is it makes those trades over and over and over again, and we call them sales. Yeah, it's really quite simple, and I do a lot of consulting, and an awful lot of my advice to my clients is things like, slow down, take it easy, you're moving too fast, you don't understand what you're doing, slow down. I can't tell you how much I say that to people, and stop and understand what it is you're doing. I agree with you about the internet. If I go and look on the internet for things, there is so much information, and you can't tell what's good and what isn't good.
Mm.
So I'm using my blog to present what I call a common sense approach to starting and running a business. And that's my thing, is let's put common sense first and everything else second. And when you do it like that, I think you'll find that things make more sense. You want to take the thing that's most important and get it in front of you and do it next, and just do one thing at a time. But it sounds to me like you're just getting started. My advice to somebody who's just starting is make a sale, and then make 2 sales, and then make 3 sales, and don't worry about everything else. Just let everything else take care of itself, and it will. If you want this thing to happen, it will happen. I met with a lady today who has a business. She's been in business for 35 years. She's very competent. She doesn't need my help running her business day to day, but she's never ever had a plan for growing her business. So I said, what would you like to do? How big would you like your business to be? And she said, well, gosh, I'd like to double my business. And she already has 30 employees. So we're talking about now going up to 60 employees. And I said, well, just write it down, and let's put things in order. And she said, that sounds awful simple. And I said, well, it sort of is simple. And she wrote it down. This was 2 years ago, and she thought it would take her 4 years to double her business. And it's a little under 2 years, and she's already hit the number. She's already doubled her business. And she said, I've been in business. She's 60 years old. She said, I've been in business for over 30 years. She said, I've never seen, she said, the power of writing it down and just doing things one thing at a time. She says, it's so simple, and I've never done that for myself. And so that's the kind of work I like to do. I really like it when I can help other people succeed. And so much of it is so, to me, it's easy to see. It doesn't necessarily mean it's easy to do, but it's easy to see. And what I've learned is, if you can see it, you can write it down. And if you write it down, you're likely to do it. That's what I've seen with all my clients, is go ahead and write down what it is you want to do.
Let me ask you a really basic question, Barney. If You say, go out and make a sale. Go out and sell your product, your service. What if nobody buys it?
What?
What if nobody buys it?
Well, then you haven't made a sale.
Right. So what do you do then? Nobody's buying your product or your service.
Then you have a bad product. You either have a bad product or you have no clue how to present it to people.
So where do you go?
The reason why I said, my 5 things to start a business, my number 3 was to do what I call a reality check. You want to sort of figure out in advance whether it's something that people would want. And,
Say more, say
if you
more.
have a good product, people will want it. So, I mean, you have to, the only way to make sense of a conversation like this, Mike, is to come up with some examples. But there's some things that's obvious that people want because already there's a lot of businesses doing well with it. I mean, do people want to buy coffee? Yes, they do. Do you want to open a coffee shop? Yeah, why not? Why not if you like serving coffee, why not open a coffee shop? You can make good money selling coffee.
Leslie's got a question.
Huh?
Leslie's got a question.
Leslie's got a question. Okay.
Yeah, I had a question. It was for those of us who maybe there's no one else on the call, but that maybe do want to start a business that requires much more funding up front, like significant infrastructure and equipment and things like that. So for that type of business that would require a formal business plan to obtain funding, correct? And if so, is your thought that most investors or bankers kind of think it's, for lack of better words, BS anyway? So our strategy should really be to prepare what is the most plausible or feasible for funding purposes. That's my question.
Well, again, I without me knowing what business it is you're talking about, it's hard to answer specifically.
So
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Leslie.
if I wanted to open up a nursing home,
Okay.
and that they're
Okay.
built or buy one, but to own and operate a nursing home.
Yeah. So I love the idea because we know even you don't have to you don't have to spend very much time wondering if that's a good product or not. That's a good product. We know that people are getting older. We know that the baby boomers all need, I'm a baby boomer. So, we all need to go into some kind of care. We know that there's going to be lots of business for somebody in a nursing home. And that's not a little startup coffee shop. That's real money. So you've got to sort of figure out what part you want to play in this. You have to decide, there's all these issues that you sort of have to deal with, and you're just going to sort of line them up and knock them down one at a time. But one of the big ones is who's going to operate this thing. I mean, that's the first thing. Is this a nursing home that requires a certain kind of license? In other words, are you going to be giving medical care? Is there going to be, there's just so many things in here. It's not just the funding. There's just a lot of stuff. But I would start with the operating. Who's going to operate this thing? And I would make sure that I had a very clear picture of how this nursing home is going to operate. That would be how I would start then answering questions like, how much money do I need? What personnel do I need? Where do I put this thing? Why do you want to pick something that's such a big enterprise? What is it about this idea that sounds good to you?
Well, I have personal reasons for it. My grandfather passed away in a nursing home shortly before COVID. Actually, it was a rehab, so essentially a skilled nursing facility, which is not like long-term. It's not assisted living. It's a specific type of care. It's for rehabilitative purposes. But through my research, and I just finished an MBA where this was part of my capstone project, but I really care about improving the service level in nursing homes. It's pretty much poor across the United States, but relatively speaking, there are a few states, which I happen to be from, like Texas and Oklahoma, that are really, really poor. And I think it's just a lack of staffing, proper staffing, quality staffing, all of those things. So anyway, I at first I thought maybe I'll just offer a service because I'm in supply chain background. I know how to procure goods and services. I know how to measure for quality and all these things. But then I thought that's not the way nursing homes are typically operating these days. They're largely owned by a lot of private equity firms or other large players that are subbing out all of these third-party services under entities of their own, essentially. And so there's
It's
really
essentially, Leslie, it's a real estate business is what it is.
yeah. So that the money is really, there's no incentive for these owners to outsource to a third party like me to provide, let's say, staffing for the techs and the nursing that is typically outsourced to third parties. Then I decided to own
I mean,
it.
if you found 100 of these owners and could magically talk to all 100 of them, I think you'd find that maybe a small percentage of them cared a lot about the quality of the service and would be interested in what you have to offer. I mean, if you have found me, and I mean, you have found me, if you wanted to talk to me about this, I don't know if you heard me say earlier, but I offer free office hours. And if you'd like, you can just go to my website and sign up for an hour with me. I'd be glad to talk this through with you. But the first thing I would say is, are you sure you want to be the owner of this thing? And are you ready to jump into that? I mean, because you could be not the owner of the whole nursing home, but you could be the owner of a service that provides, I'll just take one small slice of what you talked about, provides training to nursing home staff so that they do a better job. You know, that would be a much smaller bite of what it is you're talking about. I think you should try and make a good match between what you want to do and what you're capable of doing. But if you're going to own a nursing home, as Mike says, you got to buy a big piece of real estate, and you're going to have to get a whole bunch of probably medical licenses.
Right.
But you could there's parts of nursing homes that you could be the event coordinator for a nursing home and tour the program and sell that to several nursing homes and that kind of stuff. I mean, I'd love to just talk it out with you. Just keep exploring it until you come up with something that sounds really good.
Right. I'm with you. I will schedule some time. I actually already went to your website, so I look forward to that.
Leslie, there's a reason that private equity firms tend to own these things, because they come to the opportunity with bucket loads of cash. And oftentimes they don't even need to go to a bank. They've got their own equity or at least a lot of equity that they can put in with some bank loan capital as well. But Leslie, what I wanted to ask you is, I think what Barney's getting to is really important. Find your passion. I don't think you want to be, owning a big facility that requires, termite removal and landscaping and roofing and fixing the plumbing and running and caring for the people that are residents there necessarily. I mean, that's a different ball of wax when you start owning a big nursing home. Have you considered maybe starting smaller with an adult family home, which are good businesses, and a lot of people do them, and they oftentimes do it in their own home and care for people in their own home. And it's something you can do, and you can actually do really well, and you could replicate that until you own 4 or 5 or 6 of them, and then you could launch into a nursing home from there. I've seen people go that path, and it's starting smaller with something that maybe doesn't even require a third party to give you money, with just what you've already got access to. Have you thought of that? I wondered.
Yes, I have. I definitely, not extensively. I've just kind of explored a number of different ideas and haven't landed on one yet. I think the reason I haven't totally given up on the nursing home. So that was my original idea, was the full infrastructure. Then one of my other business mentors said, why not think a little smaller and maybe think of a service that you can offer? But as I stated, the way that these nursing homes are making money now, but not putting any money towards actually caring for residents, is because they're, using related parties and others to kind of transfer funds on their cost reports. And so essentially, like, they already own the third party services that are, that for the most part, this is how most employees are working. So they have no incentive to hire me for something like that, to make because it will make their up if I have more quality to give. So, but I'm with you. I'm willing to explore any option here. But the goal is to improve care given to senior citizens. So that's
Amen. Amen. Thank you. I'll be one of your customers, not very long.
I'm closer to it than you are, Mike. Yeah. Well, Lindsay, I look forward to getting to know you a little bit. I'd love to have the discussion with you just to see if I can help you out a little bit. And it's one of my favorite things to do, is to talk to somebody that's got a bunch of ideas and wants to try and make something happen. If I can help people out that way and help nudge people along or whatever you want to call that, encourage you and give you some support, I'd love that. And I've gotten to the point in my career that I'm very happy to give away a certain amount of time for free or for no charge, because I just like talking to people and see if I can help people out. So,
well, thank you so much, Barney. I really appreciate it. So I'll definitely reach out.
yeah, and who knows where it would go. But you've got a good idea. I mean, the idea of a nursing home or nursing home services, the first thing I always look at is, do you have a good product? You can't have a good business if you don't have a good product. But any portion of delivering the nursing home or assisted living or whatever you want to call it, the elderly care, this whole area, any portion of it is a good product, because one of the things that makes a good product is that there's a lot of demand, and there's definitely going to be a lot of demand for this area, in this area. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I know that Asha wrote that she knows someone who manages nursing homes on the peninsula. So thank you for that, Asha. I definitely would love to reach out to that person and just see how things are working.
Well, you want to call it a wrap, Mike? Is this a good place to?
I think so. I hope you guys got as much out of this as I did. I always love getting back to the basics with Barney and just focusing on the simple things. There's a reason that we call our class this Start Simple, because I think it can be done. And in fact, that's usually how it's done. It's the folks that overthink things that tend to never get there. It's the folks that start simple and just focus on the main things that matter, having a good product and selling it and going from there, that I think end up being business owners. Any final words from any of you folks?
I want to thank you again, Barney, and I also want to thank you, Mike and Michelle and Fasha.
Yeah.
For CIE. It's amazing what you're doing, and to me, it's a miracle that your organization even exists. And
you don't even know the half of it, Satora. It is a miracle.
Yeah, free business coaching is just amazing. I really appreciate it, and I love that I was at that graduation for the green incubator. That was also amazing.
That was fun. That was a good time.
Yeah.
That was all Michelle's work. Michelle made that happen.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle.
Well, thank you all for joining us. We're going to be back with Barney in a month. So watch for his next office hour, where I think remind me what we're going to talk about. Oh, taking your business from a gig to a business.
What's the difference between a gig and a business?
What's the difference between a gig and this topic is also near and dear to my heart. I love this topic. So I hope you'll all come back and join us. And in the meantime, I posted Barney's website, and you can read all of this stuff and sign up for his newsletter and take advantage of his free office hours that he provides through his consulting business. And Barney, thank you so much. And Leah, thanks for being here. And I'm so glad that we connected with everybody after the technical difficulties we have. So thank you all for bearing with us and jumping in and participating. We're going to get better at this. This is all really new stuff, especially for me.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Barney. We'll see you in a month.
Okay.
Unless I
Sounds
see you
good.
in the neighborhood, unless I see you down at Starbucks before then.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to talk to me, just go on my website and reach out to me. I'm happy to interact with you and spend time with you.
Thank you, Barney. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
And Mike,
It's getting better.
it is.
We had to really scramble though. There's something wrong with my link. So when I put a coffee hour together, it assigns a link through, I guess, through my Zoom or something, and then you can't access it. So you saw what it said, invalid meeting ID. What's that about?
So when you set it up on the coffee shop, do they provide you the Zoom link, or do you and set it up and then add it in?
I can't remember. I think Melissa set these up,
Okay.
and then I went in and tried to boost it somehow, like to send out another reminder, and it ended up twice on my calendar, and it put a different link in the one that some reason I had two different links. And I deleted one, and Barney said, "What are you doing? You're deleting our meeting." I said, "No, I have two." And I must have deleted the one that Melissa set up that probably worked, and ended up with the one that I set up that didn't work. And we had the same thing last week. We had office hours just to talk about the community. And we had 3 people signed up, and I couldn't reach them. It was so frustrating. I'm terrible at this kind of stuff. Without you or Melissa or Fauzia to help me, I just I break it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. I've broken it. I'm so glad that we had a good group though. And
we did.
So the first one we had one person, and now we had, a group of people, and I hope that it continues to grow. And I love the way Barney is we are birds of a feather. The difference is that he built a business from a single record store to a $10 billion business that he took public.
Yeah.
With that same simple, aw shucks kind of approach to it. So he's a very successful business person.
Yeah, I would love to meet with him one-on-one.
You should.
I think I might.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
I was also thinking the lunch and learns. I think this has a better turnout in the coffee shop, getting people together, than Facebook.
Well, maybe I think I've never imagined, Michelle, that we would be this successful just going out to the general public and direct marketing our program to everybody in the community. It is working, but it's never what I imagined. And I always imagined a much more intentional touch, where we're working with a partner in the community and they're bringing people to us, and we're really engaging with the people in this way that we did tonight. And so sometimes it works, but you never know. And what we did for this, I think you know this, is I had Isabel put together a MailChimp
Mhm.
announcement. And it was nicely done. It had good visuals, and it said, "Hey, we're meeting with Barney again. You don't want to miss this. Sign up." And it had a link to sign up and to RSVP. And then after that, it said, "Not on the coffee shop yet. Click here to become, to get registered on the coffee shop, and don't miss the next opportunity."
Mhm.
And a lot of people clicked on that link. So Isabel and I were looking at this earlier, and we had about 100. She sent it out to about 500 people. So the list that we invited to the coffee shop in the first place was about 480 people. And then all the new cohorts, she added those. And then
Mhm.
all the mentors, she added them. And so it went out to a lot of people, but they were all people who we know and who are registered as clients or are volunteering as mentors,
Mhm.
and not just anybody. And so they know us and they value us and they want to get to know the rest of the people in our community. And so I think that's what drove more people this time. And I want to do this every time. We don't use MailChimp enough. MailChimp is much more targeted.
Mhm.
Even if you put all the metrics and pay a lot of money to Facebook's, you can kind of zero in on a community or a demographic, but it's still overspray. And
Yeah.
it's reaching a lot of people that, who are these people? Why am I getting this Facebook message?
Yeah.
Whereas the MailChimp thing was, oh, it's Mike at CIE and Michelle and Rick and Micah. They're reaching out to us. They got something. Let's show up. It's free and it's before dinner. I'll do it. So I think that that's a marketing channel that we've underused, and now we've got this really great excuse for using MailChimp as a marketing channel to reach directly to our people and
Yeah.
drive more and more of them to the coffee shop. That doesn't mean that you don't do both, Michelle. You could say, hey, we're going to have a get together at a coffee shop, a real coffee shop in Port Angeles. Join us there and use the coffee shop office hours as a way to let people know we're having office hours and it's going to be a lunch and learn at a restaurant. Join us there. And in addition, you can push it out to everybody in Facebook. But you're kind of, in a way, you're kind of giving our clients more bang for their buck, more value for their membership
Yeah.
by hitting them first directly and saying, we know you're a client. We know you're on the peninsula. Come join us for lunch.
Yeah.
And learn about taxes or setting up a maker space or how to figure out your financials or whatever.
Mhm.
So hopefully this is in addition to that, and because it's more targeted and focused, it does two things. It aims more directly to people we know are interested in working and starting a business with us, right? And it creates a value proposition for joining our program and signing up for the coffee shop, because otherwise you might not hear about these opportunities.
Mhm.
So just some things that I'm thinking about. And I know you guys are very active with open and the coffee, but not Juan isn't doing a lot of these things, and nothing like this is happening on the peninsula. I mean, in the Skagit. And so you guys are kind of leading the way with these really cool ideas, and they are getting eyeballs on them.
Mhm.
Use the coffee shop first and then supplement it with the Facebook social media thing. And I think you could really drive a lot of people here. And then you get people together at a physical place or even on Zoom, and they're saying, oh, you signed up, you've taken the course. You're working with an advisor. Oh, I
Mhm.
didn't know you could do that. How do I do that? Well, now we're driving them to our program where, it becomes a marketing tool, a sales and
Mhm.
marketing tool.
Right. Catching them in many forms.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
cool. Hey, good to
Well,
talk to you.
yeah, you too. Have a great night.
You have anything else? I don't mean to cut you off. Sound like you're about to say something else.
Oh no, my wheels are just turning. I don't know. I'm good.
I like it when your wheels turn.
Yeah.
They turn in the right direction for me.
Good.
Okay. Have a good evening, Michelle.
You too.
See you soon.